Giving a Pokemon a new evolution can completely rejuvenate the line and make them not only stronger, but more interesting. Gen 9 gave us Kingambit and Annihilate, which were incredible additions to often forgotten Pokemon. However, a Pokemon that hasn't gotten the love that many fans think it deserves is Minior. This little star guy is one of the most interesting Pokemon to exist. It has a unique ability that causes it to not only change appearance, but stats as well mid-battle, and it comes in a ton of different colors. And we all know that Pokemon fans love their alternate color choices. Also, this video is sponsored by Manta Sleep, but more on them later. That being said, I wanted to explore the idea of Minior evolving. What would it look like? How would it evolve? And would it keep the ability to change form? These are all things I had to consider when creating today's fakemon. As I dove into what Minior was, I saw a lot of potential for it evolving through the various evolutionary items like the elemental stones and some of the more unique ones. But being the indecisive person that I was, I decided to throw them all on a wheel and let fate decide which 3 I would use for this video. So if you have some good ideas for what a Minior evolution would be like for an item that I don't use today, make sure to comment it down below. Alrighty, for the first item we spin and we get the Protector. Nice, this should be interesting. So obviously with this item, I looked at Rhyperior for inspiration since it's the only Pokemon to evolve using it so far, and clearly it takes a lot of color and shape from the item being very orange and very rigid, which I think took a lot of fans off guard with how different it is than Rhydon and Rhyhorn. But I could make something very different than Minior, but I think I'm just gonna try to take some features and blend it in with what we already have, which is a comet. Originally, I had planned for mini protectors to form an orbiting shell that would close in around it much like an asteroid field, but after messing around for far too many hours on perspective, which is something I'm still trying to learn and practicing, I decided to go a different route. What if I made the shell more rigid to conform more to the protector item? I drew an octahedron and immediately felt it was the perfect shape, so after giving the sides some raised edges and deciding on how I wanted the design of the shell to look, I went about choosing the color. I ended up landing somewhere between the protector's orange and Minior's original brown, giving this almost clay look. I felt this fit really well as it's going to keep Minior's typing of rock flying. Then after solidifying a few more details and shading, we had Aegiscore, the protector meteor Pokemon. Minior's hard shell is combined with the protector item, creating an even stronger and sturdier shell. They are quite slow and large and can be found floating lazily through rocky canyons and sandy plains. It filters dust through the cracks it forms on its shell, adding layers, slowly thickening its barrier. Just like Minior, the strange markings can be found covering its shell, giving it the extraterrestrial feel of something not from this planet. You can also see the slight tips of something poking out of its carapace in a few places. Aegiscore has the signature move Aegis Shield, which acts like the move Protect but also boosts defense and special defense by 1 stage. The drawback being that it can't use an attacking move on the following turn as it exerted too much energy pulling its shell tighter together. This might be useful for getting up hazards or even setting up, as its defense of 125 rivals that of Crustle or Tangrowth on the physical side and Milotic and Mega Audino on the special. I really enjoyed how Aegiscore's shield form came out, and while I might come back in a later video to attempt the original idea, I think this one fits the protector item pretty well. I decided to also make its shiny form the original Minior's colors because I know that everyone hates that the shell form of Minior looks the same regardless of it being regular or shiny. Now, since I made the shell form, you might be wondering if the core underneath looks exactly the same, and the answer is no. I decided to keep its shape mostly the same, but as you saw with the shell form, the spikes are in slightly different locations, and with the points of the shell, I decided they would make the perfect place to hide even more pointed pieces of this Pokemon. So it has 3 on top, 3 on bottom, and 4 around the center. I also didn't want it to have the exact same eyes as Minior, so I eventually landed on a more rigid or rectangular pattern to keep with the protector motif. For fun, I added some broken shards of its shell orbiting around it since it's now bigger, and I imagined it has its own sort of gravitational pull on its shell. These could also act like a sort of pseudo defense, since most Pokemon or people wouldn't want to come near something surrounded by spinning, orbiting shards of stone. Maybe that could play into an upgraded version of its ability Shields Down, adding a layer of stealth rocks to the field, or perhaps acting like Rough Skin after its shield is down. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that would be too powerful. Anyways, I added the classic Minior color breakdown with spots and color changed between the body and points, which gave us Aegiscore core form. With the shell broken, the core seems to swell in size, darting around to avoid damage. They aren't quite as fast as their pre-evolution, but they pack a punch in both physical and special attack, making them incredibly versatile in battle. Now, before anyone complains in the comments, yes, I kept the black shiny, and yes, the various colored cores are still available for this evolution, but I did make a slight change to the shiny for each color. If you watch, you can see the eyes as well as the color around the mouth and the spikes change depending on the core's color. I thought this would be a fun way to stay true to Minior's original design and shiny, plus this gives something to look forward to all you shiny hunters when your masochistic inner child demands your soul in exchange for 7 identical looking shinies. You're welcome. As always, the core form sees a decrease in its defenses while seeing a large buff to its speed and attack stats. I'm really happy with how these guys came out, but let me know what you think in the comments, and if it ends up being your favorite from the video, make sure to comment hashtag Team Aegis Core down below. Alright, time for the second wheel spin, and we get the Firestone. Okay, a classic. Now I could make a sun-based Minior, but I guess that would fit better with the Sunstone, which is fine. So what would be a flame and rock combination? I guess the Earth is still in space, so maybe we make it something like the crust and core of a planet. This one's gonna be kind of wacky, so make sure you stick through it all. With this idea in mind, I went to work creating the shell form. I had originally thought about going with these raised uniform edges, but nothing about our planet is uniform, so I decided to give it long, jagged cracks across the shell instead, like the different tectonic plates. I also placed vents all around it from where the flames would shoot out when it was released by its fiery magma core. Of course, it needs the classic markings all across its body, and I'll stick with the original Minior colors, leaving us with Ignior, the flaming asteroid Pokemon. Now, immediately you might be wondering where the flames went, but we'll get to that. This evolution is only slightly bigger than Minior and could be mistaken for just an old stone if it weren't for the glowing light that emits from the vents all over its shell. Some say that Ignior creates its shell not only to protect its core from danger, but also as a heat shield to protect those around it from getting burned. Its signature move, Solar Flare, causes Ignior to overheat, releasing flames from all its vents, burning any of those who touch it. This is a 2-turn move where the heat grows quickly, and at the end of the second turn, Ignior's shell bursts open, releasing the stored heat and fire, dealing massive damage, but also now revealing its exhausted core, rendering it unable to use fire-type moves for a turn or until the shell breaks. Speaking of being exhausted, today's video sponsor, Manta Sleep, helps you get better quality sleep, so stick around for just a second as it really helps the channel. Okay, thanks. With Manta Sleep and their unbeatable sleep masks, you can get better quality sleep whenever and wherever. I was apprehensive about sleeping with a mask on, but after trying it out, I can promise that those worries were put to rest. They're comfortable on the face and put no pressure on the eyes whatsoever, plus they fit any size of head comfortably. They also have a ton of different types of masks like silk, cooling, weighted, steam, and even ones with Bluetooth speakers, so they can meet any of your sleeping needs. Not to mention, with them being 100% blackout, I can nap in the middle of the day, no problem. They even came with some really nice earplugs to cancel out the noise. If you or a loved one wants better quality sleep, then consider checking out Manta Sleep through the link in the description and snag 10% off with my code COSMIC. Your sleep will thank you. I'd come up with the idea for the shell to be a heat shield and wanted to show it in action, so you guys got to see the various steps of this move, and the adorable little exhausted core letting off some steam and cooling down. I also should note that the color change in the shiny is meant to represent the ash buildup of the fires within this Pokemon. The core also still has its various colored spots on it, so it's not quite as noticeable as Minior, but becomes even more noticeable in the shiny as a change, with the eye markings changing colors to match the core's spots. And of course, blue flames are best. Its defense and attack are only slightly higher than Minior, and it's now the rock fire type. But that's not all. As I mentioned, Ignior's flames reignite when its shell breaks, giving us this small but angry ball of fire, Ignior core form. Without its heat shield, the core is unable to regulate its temperature, causing it to constantly spit fire from its molten body. It's now lost its rock typing in exchange for the flying type, and with its incredible speed stat of 135, it's outspeeding Pokemon like Crobat and Mega Gengar, while also packing a punch with both attacking stats at 120. He's quite the Spitfire. As expected, it kept the color changing with its spots. While the shiny core is black, attack with blue flames as seen from the shell form. Remember to comment hashtag Team Ignore below if this is your favorite, but wait, we have one more, which means another wheel spin. Alrighty, let's spin the wheel and like and subscribe. That's right, you gotta like and subscribe if you want to evolve into a Pokemon Master. I mean, you gotta do it. It's the rules. Anyways, we got a metal coat, which is super interesting. So, Steelix comment. The idea is kind of unnerving, but I like it. When you look at Onix and Steelix, or Scyther and Scizor, the main difference is one is made of rock or bug, and then the other is made of rock and bug coated in metal. So what if Minior was just coated in metal? Originally, I was just gonna coat the Minior core in metal and make it look real mean and sharp, but then I wondered, how would this evolution naturally happen in the Pokemon world? I then decided to draw the shell form instead. I wanted to have these spikes of ore sticking out of its metallic armored shell, making this evolution look more like an asteroid made of iron and nickel floating around through space with deposits of copper and brass jutting out of it. This ended up resulting in Metalor, the ore meteor Pokemon. This evolution is theorized to have occurred as Minior shot through space at high speeds through asteroid belts full of metal ore. After enough of it was embedded into its shell, it ended up evolving, absorbing the new material, trapping its core forever. It's incredibly heavy and dense, so no one knows how it floats, but it's likely due to the core inside being a shooting star trapped in the metal sealed shell. This Pokemon has no core form. I wanted to really commit to the idea of it being quite literally coated in metal, which would be too hard to break through. So all you can see of the core is its glowing, spinning eyes. Its signature move is a callback to its old ability, Shields Away, which causes Metalor to eject its metal spikes. This greatly lowers its defenses, but it also lays 3 layers of steel-type spikes on the opposing field. I decided to draw this form because it would leave Metalor covered in these craters, which I thought looked funny. The shiny form becomes a silver and gold, which are metals still found in space, just more rare, thus the shiny form being more valuable. It's slow with decent attack and incredible defense. This Pokemon took a much different path from the Minior trope, but I liked the idea, so I ran with it. But let me know what you think. Make sure to comment hashtag team whichever one was your favorite, and let me know what you think the other evolutionary items would turn Minior into. To see more fakemon I've made, check out these videos. Subscribe to see when I post next, and until next time, peace.